Hello, everybody. How's it going? Another Project Egg interview today. My name is Ben Gothard, and we are talking with Clinton Senkow from Canada. How you doing today, my man?
I'm doing great. Thanks a lot for having me. Really excited to just dive a little bit deeper with you today and provide some value.
Absolutely, man, and it's a pleasure as well in this end. So let's get started. My first question for you today, man, is what is your story?
What is my story? My story is it's interesting. A lot of lots of ups and downs. Different. Grew up my whole life playing hockey, high level hockey player. I played junior A across Canada for 3 years after high school. Went to college on a hockey scholarship, played there for 4 years, got my business degree. And then once I was done there, I went abroad and lived and worked in Spain for 6 months. And just kind of got this, entrepreneurial, kind of travel bug inside of me. And then from there, I ended up going into kind of like, more startup sales and marketing type jobs, and really just kind of immersed myself in the entrepreneurial world. And from there, I ended up just kind of somehow transitioned into a writer. And the funniest story is the fact that in grade 12, when I graduated high school, I actually had a 52 in English. I was never a writer, did not like writing. And then, nowadays I find myself, being a writer, writing for, some of the biggest publications out there. And then obviously, helping build and grow, Influencive right now, which is my current, main focus. And so, yeah, just my real journey and my real story is, someone that grew up being an athlete, a high level athlete, and playing at a high level. And then I just noticed that I needed something different. And I just really found entrepreneurship and just being an entrepreneur as, kind of my next path to take me where I wanted to be.
That's fantastic. So I want to dig a little bit more into your childhood. So can you talk about kind of the situation that you grew up in, maybe where you were and kind of the things that you were doing at a very young age?
Honestly, at a young age, I grew up the youngest of five kids. So I have three older brothers and older sister. And so I was always the one that, maybe had to get a little bit loud if he had to be heard in the family, or, you have to eat pretty quick. If you don't eat quick, you're not going to get any food. That's kind of how I grew up. But really, at a young age, I was always taught that you got to work for everything that you want in life. I was never ever handed anything to me. I never, got any allowances. Any money that I ever got was through my own work or through my own jobs. And I guess kind of it was kind of entrepreneurial because, I kind of wish we would have maybe turned it into something more than it was. But, I started at a young age, probably around, I don't know, maybe 10, 12. I don't even remember the age, but I was shoveling snow and neighbors' driveways, huge driveways in Canada. We get lots of snow up here. So at a young age, I was shoveling snow in the winters and mowing lawns in the summer. That's, how I made my money. That's how I got money. If I ever wanted to go, buy pizza, if I wanted to go have whatever it is, that's how I got money. My parents never gave me anything just because my parents' money, went to us, raising us, and really playing hockey in a high level. It's a very expensive sport to play. So, all of our money and all the money that they had and would go to that. So that's, I'm very thankful, obviously, for my parents to just, be able to get me through the stage, because I think sports, has taught me so many amazing skills and attributes that I've been able to bring with me into business. And, but that was kind of, one of my first things is just really being known as, you got to work for everything that you want in life. And that's, ultimately what, I kind of my first entrepreneurial venture. I don't really call it a venture, but yeah, that's kind of like my story growing up, I guess.
Very cool. So I want to talk a little bit about that business that you were running at, I believe you said 10 to 12 years old. So what did you learn from that, right? Where'd you get the inspiration to start that, and what did that really teach you that has now led to or maybe contributed to your success later on down the road?
Yeah, so honestly, it was never anything to do with me, my idea. I think it just really had to deal with my older brothers. My older brothers were doing it, and it was always just me and them that we were the ones doing it, right? And that's just kind of what was instilled in me at a young age is if you want money, if you want to be able to whatever, go to the movies with your friends on the weekend, you're going to have to work to get that money if you want to go to the movies. So yeah, I think it was just just obviously everything that my older brothers did, I wanted to do the same myself. So I ended up just kind of following in their footsteps. But I don't really call that my first, entrepreneurial venture. But the other story that I will touch on is when I was 17 is actually when I do kind of call my first entrepreneurial venture. I joined a program called Junior Achievement. And with Junior Achievement, it's an after school program. It's a nonprofit organization. And what they do is they actually teach you from grades 9 to grade 12 students how to build and grow a business. So you actually, build a business plan. You have people that run for president, the VP of IT, of marketing, of finance, all this. And you sell shares. You have to sell your product. It's very business like. And I had a friend of mine at the time that, told me about this program. He said, "Hey, come join me in this program. I'm doing it. You'd be really good." And so honestly, I really attribute, me getting into, business in college and getting a business degree, and then obviously just being an entrepreneur now, to really just being open to that, just that industry, that profession at such a young age, that I knew kind of once I was done hockey that I was like, you know what, I'm probably 90% sure I'm going to go into business. It was just, something that was instilled in me. And I guess I'll touch on what the business was. It was actually a lip balm and lip gloss company, believe it or not. We actually made the lip balm and lip gloss. We bought the containers. We, found a recipe online where we created it in our parents' kitchens, on the stove, put in the different, flavoring, smells, or whatever you want to call it, and put them in the tubes and put the labels on and went to the craft shows and tried to sell them to people. So yeah, that was kind of like my first real, venture that, was really kind of like a full on business of how a business is run.
That's awesome, man. That's so cool. And but before you had really jumped into the junior achievement thing, where did you kind of see yourself going? Like how did that change your aspirations from before you opened to the world of business and entrepreneurship, and then after you had been in it and you were really like in it?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a great question. And honestly, the best answer to that is I grew up being a high level hockey player, so the biggest thing it was going pro. I had the opportunity after college to go play semi-pro in other places if I wanted to go to Europe or go to the States, go to the US and play in some of the leagues there. But ultimately, I just came to the decision that, I was ready for the next chapter in my life. And, I had a degree and I was, I had fun playing hockey. But ultimately, when you're a 14, 15, 16-year-old kid in Canada that is good at a sport, especially like hockey, your dream is to play in the NHL. Your dream is to, be a professional hockey player. And that's ultimately what my dream was. And not many people, I haven't really touched on this too much, but, from when I was 15, I actually tore my ACL on my knee. And I had reconstructive surgery when I was 15. So I actually had rehab for 6 months when I was 15. And then I came back from that. And I actually broke my wrist, which also needed surgery, and I was gone for another 6 months. So when I was 15 and 16, when I was kind of at the top of my game, I kind of got chopped down at the knees and basically had to start again and really get back up to speed where everyone else at my age was kind of getting better and improving than me. And, that's where, maybe, I don't know if it was then or whatever. I never quit, obviously, because I still played at a very high level and got back up to speed and did a lot of things in hockey and achieved a lot of things in hockey that, if people would have went through the same thing that I did, they probably would have quit or, they would have found something else to do. But I just think at such a young age, when you're 16, 17, and when I found Junior Achievement and learned more about entrepreneurship, it just really just opened my eyes to, like there is more to playing a sport. There's life after sport. And I think, it's a real good lesson for anyone playing a sport, no matter if it's professional or whatever it is. You love the sport and you want to be able to play it at the highest level, but even if you play it at the highest level, you can't play it for the rest of your life. You need to have other places and other things and other hobbies that you can do and professions you can pursue. So I just felt, entrepreneurship and business was definitely the right path for me. And I know it's where I'm supposed to be nowadays for sure.
Fantastic. Now, when you were saying being 14, 15, 16, that's a very malleable age, right? It doesn't take a lot to influence, people of that age, right? And so if you were to consciously put yourself into situations that, you're exposing yourself to really good experiences, I mean, I agree that it can take you to places that you hadn't even thought of before, right? So on that note, would you recommend that more kids go do things like junior achievement, that more kids get into entrepreneurship early? Or if you could go back, how would you have changed that aspect of your life if you would have?
Yeah, honestly, that's a great question, and what I say to that is I think what you learn as a kid in a junior achievement program is something that should be in the normal school curriculum, no matter where it is in the world. I think I think the whole industry in the world of being an entrepreneur is kind of seen as, oh, you're not making any money. You're like when you say, hey, I want to be an entrepreneur, or you say I'm an entrepreneur, to some people who have a government job or they're a lawyer, this and that, they're like, oh, like you're not making any money, or oh, you think you're going to be a success or whatever, when it's like, yes, there are people like that are very naive and think that just being an entrepreneur is, and I'm an entrepreneur, but I just really feel there's more to it than that, and you need to really just kind of dig deep and find what it is that really drives you and what really wants to take you to kind of the next level. And I'm just definitely, very fortunate to be able to find what I felt was the right path for me. And I think, at a young age, you are very swayed and going a lot of different ways, right? And you can get persuaded and you can, choose to go this way or that way. And I just think, just the skills of, financial literacy and entrepreneurship and just work readiness of leadership, I think those are very invaluable skills that, at a young age, I think you should 100% do. And I'm someone that I live my life with no regrets. So I don't like to look back and say, hey, if I should have done this, or I could have done this, or, I should have done this better. I'm someone that just says, screw it, I'm just going to do it. And, if it fails, whatever, or, it doesn't work out the best way, or, hey, I take this job and I only work there for 2 months and it doesn't work for me. You know what? At least I said I tried it. At least I said that, I gave it a shot and, it was an opportunity. So that's just someone that I like to do. So, if I was to look back, I would never really change anything, in my childhood or in my, young adulthood. But, I definitely do feel like the principles and the teachings in a program like Junior Achievement is something that should be taught at a young age. And, more kids should be exposed to it because, in my mind, being an entrepreneur is not a profession. It's actually a mindset. You can be an entrepreneur in no matter what profession you are in the world. And it's really more of a mindset. It's really having that innovative mindset of how can I think bigger? How can I improve this? How can I improve that? How can I, maybe improve my productivity in some sort or some way? Or how can I, change the way that this process is done? That's more of a mindset than it is you have to build a company. And that's where I feel, entrepreneurship is that mindset.
Absolutely. So, for people who may be struggling to develop that mindset and they may say, well, I want to be an entrepreneur. I'm not really sure how I should go about doing so. I agree with you completely. They got to get your mind right first. How do you do that? Right? What actionable steps can you give to help other people attain that mindset or at least improve on their own?
Yeah, I think the huge advantage that we have, I think in just today's day and age, right, is just the influx of information that we have at our fingertips. Anyone right now can, spend 15 hours, watch YouTube videos or do a course or do this online and free, and you could become a designer in 15 hours. And so basically what I'm trying to say is, there's just so much information out there that I feel if you really want to do something, you can do it and you can find it. You just have to spend, your time doing that and finding it and practicing that rather than going to the movies or, going out with your friends or going out for supper. You have to sacrifice certain things, and that's, you notice that, and it's something that you have to do, when you are building a business or you are an entrepreneur yourself. There's a lot of sacrifices you have to do, and a lot of them are not easy. And as you get older and the more important decisions, it never gets easier. As you get older in age, the more important decisions that you have to make. And really, as you get older, your circle just continues to get smaller and smaller and smaller. And I think that's a powerful thing. Just being around people that, make you feel good, but also just being around people that really help you on your journey, and no matter what it is. And I feel like there's just too much negativity in our world to, have people settle and, just be like, I'll just stay here. I'll live in this city. I'll take this job because that's what my parents want, or, just because I don't know if I'm good enough, or I don't think I'm confident enough. And ultimately you should be the one that you should be surrounding yourself with people that, strive you to be, think differently, that bring a different element to your life, that make you think, there's maybe a different way that I can, think about this. And, so if you want to develop that mindset, it's everything. There's videos everywhere. There's courses. There's, books that you can read. There's so many different types of things that you can implement into your, daily, routines. And that's what the thing that I like to tell people is, it doesn't matter if it's you, me, Richard Branson, Mark Cuban, Mark Zuckerberg. We all have 24 hours in a day. It's just they're more successful than us because they use the 24 hours more effectively to the way that they use them. They're more effective at using their time. So how can you, get rid of that 6 hours a night of watching TV every night and turn, 4 hours of that into improving yourself, whether it's working out and then reading a book and then doing a course, that is improving you in your life rather than, just consuming and living day to day. So there's a lot of little actionable steps that you can do that. It just really comes down to, are you committed enough, and are you willing to really make those sacrifices?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's powerful. And, you mentioned at one time the importance of surrounding yourself with the right people. And whether that be finding a mentor, or whether that be surrounding yourself with peers who are going to help you and be, sort of friendly competition to where y'all are both succeeding, or maybe it's even mentoring other people to help them come up, right? How important is it? And I know you talked about it a little bit, but maybe you could go a little bit more in depth on the importance of surrounding yourself with the right people. And then maybe you could give some actionable tips on how to surround yourself with the right people.
Definitely. So this is probably one of the areas where I feel is probably the most important to just honestly my success that I've had. And I don't even really consider myself a success. I'm still, still young. I still have a lot to learn. And there's a lot of, different things that I want to achieve in my lifetime that, I'm still not there. But, one of the things that I've learned is when you surround yourself with the right people, there's a lot of really good things that come from it. And as I've gotten older, I've definitely made my circle a lot smaller. I've taken myself out of groups. Or maybe it's not very comfortable to do so, or, I've chosen not to go to, different types of events or family outings because, I don't think it's really going to put me in the right mindset or the right frame of mind. And so that's where, surrounding yourself with the right people is super, super important. And the quote that I always, like to live my life by is, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So I never want to be, that person on the bottom of the totem pole. I want to surround myself with 3, 4, 5 people at all times, that are bringing me up, but also I know that I can help them out as well. So I'm kind of in that middle. I want to be that middle person. I want to be able to help people. I want to be able to provide advice. I want to be able to provide some of my experience and tips and feedback. But then I also want to have those people in my life where, they make me think unconventionally. They make me think a little bit different. They make me think outside the box, and they really just make me want to raise my game. I think in today's day and age, we're always too worried about competition, and you're always so worried about someone else and what they're doing. When if you're worried about someone else and what they're doing, what you really should be doing is you should be asking how they're doing it, how they do it. They should be asking those questions of, how did you do this? How are you making so much money doing this? How did you do that? Why did you start? What do you do every day? Who do you talk to? Who are your friends? Getting to know people. And those are really easy, actionable things that I feel people are a lot of the time scared of asking questions. And I think asking questions is a great attribute to have. because it shows that you're not afraid to really, step out of your box a little bit and, ask someone something, because if you don't ask the question, you're never going to get the answer that you want. You're never going to know unless you ask, right? So you might as well ask. The worst thing that they're going to say is no. So, that's just like a simple actionable thing that, anybody can take right now is if you see someone in a position that you want to be in or you aspire to be in, by simply asking them a question or a set of questions is really simple and easy to do. And I think the most powerful thing that, in today's age that we live in is just the power of social media. So, if there is someone that a mentor or someone is doing something that you really want to do, or they're doing it on a level that you're just, totally want to do yourself, is by reaching out to them and providing value to them and interacting with them and learning from them is one of the easiest ways that you can really, take your life from, 0 to 100. When you surround yourself or you learn from people and you take those tips and everything that you learn, you take action on it, whether you fail or whether you succeed, it really sets you up, for down the road to, really take you to where you want to be. And hopefully, that's going to be, a successful career, a successful business, whatever it is. But those are just a few really actionable things you can do is, just ask questions from the people that are in positions that are, that you aspire to be like, but then also, don't be afraid to reach out and provide value, to other people and other influencers that are out there just through the power of social media, because we can access basically anyone that we want in the world right now. You just got to be willing to put in the time and the effort.
Absolutely. And those are great actionable tips that I highly encourage everybody who's listening to use and implement into your own lives and into your own businesses, because they could actually make a serious impact to you. So thank you for that. But I want to move a little bit more back to your history, right? So you touched on it a little bit at a few different times earlier in the interview, but maybe you could go a little bit more in depth on the chronology of your hockey career, right? So I just want to hear, kind of from start to finish of your entire career as a hockey player, and then maybe give some takeaways from what you got out of the whole experience and being an athlete, and how that's kind of contributed to who you are today.
Definitely. So I feel, being a part of a team sport, because it's not just any sport, because, there's a lot different, tennis is, mostly a single sport with a couple coaches, compared to, hockey is a very team sport. And the things that I learned that, just throughout my hockey career is, everything is very actionable and really is able to play a part into my professional and business career. And, it comes down to, having the proper mindset. When I was playing sports, when you're playing sports at a high level, you're playing in front of thousands of people. You got to have the proper mindset of, performing at a high level, every day. And that's the same thing as, when you have a business, you got to be able to, put in the work and put in the time. And one of the ways that, I've, really learned and actually learned it kind of later on in my hockey career that, I just try to live my life now is, one of my coaches kind of taught me, it's like, when you play the game the right way, good things will happen. And, that means not cheating. That means, not taking penalties, not, being dirty, not, just playing the game the right way, good things will happen to you. And, that's, translated into my business career is, being an ethical person, being a value-driven person, being someone that provides value to others and just really is all in all a nice person or someone that people want to do business with. If you do that and you keep that value inside of you, I think good things are going to come, down the road for you. It might not happen right away, right? But if you kind of keep that inside of you, I think it's a really, really solid foundation that will help you. And, just when it comes to hockey and just my career, I've been on everything from, losing teams where you win 7 games out of a 62 game season where you're like, wow, should I still be playing this sport? You're losing 6-7-1 to, the next year, making it to the final and hosting the trophy at the end of the game. So, I've won championships in junior. I've won championships in college. I know what it takes to win, but, I know what it takes to lose. And I've lost way more than I have won. But when you do win, it tastes that much sweeter, when you do end up winning and you win a championship, and you get to share that, with, that tight brotherhood of players that you've really been able to create an awesome bond with. And, I just think all of those skills, from teamwork to communication skills to, just being determined, to hard work, to grit, all that stuff I've been able to transition to myself, to be known as someone in business that, I'm a hustler. I want to get stuff done. I want to work hard, and I aspire to be, something that, hopefully a lot of people don't, or I shouldn't say hopefully they don't see me, but I know a lot of people don't see me being as big as I want to be, or, as successful as I want to be. And that's totally fine, because, that just kind of fuels me more to want to push that much harder when people doubt you, or when people don't think you can do something. And if you can kind of keep that in your back pocket, and you can just let your actions speak for your words, I think that's just a lot more powerful, and something that, I like to take with me.
Absolutely. That's powerful, man. So can you talk a little bit about your time in college, right? And you said you studied business.
Yeah.
Maybe you could talk about your time during there, and give a little bit of insight on who you are, and what kind of things you were going through as an individual, more of a personal level.
Honestly, when I was in college, so I was playing hockey. I had 5 classes a semester. Every semester, I had hockey. I practiced 4 days a week. I had 2 games a week. So I basically had hockey 6 days a week out of 7 days. So very, very busy every semester. I was someone in my first 2 years, I, kind of lived up the college lifestyle a little bit. I definitely, had some fun, and just really just soaked up the atmosphere, and you really enjoyed myself. And, I'm not saying I'm a crazy party animal, but, I definitely, I feel it's important for when you're in those situations that you really need to soak it up. I think there's a time and a place that, as you continue to get older, and as you get more mature, that, there are things that I think that you need to do at certain points in your life. And I think it's important for, no matter who it is, if it's a straight A student or if it's a D student, in high school, that you immerse yourself in the atmosphere and really just soak up the present experience. So that was something that I definitely did, within my first 2 years. Didn't really focus too much on, on my grades as much. And then I actually met my girlfriend, who is now my wife, in college in my 3rd year, that she kind of not necessarily smartened me up, but, I knew from an early time, as soon as I met her, that, she was the one that I wanted to spend the rest of my life with. So when you find that right person, you definitely start to change certain things, within your life. And, going out, with the boys after we won on the Saturday nights wasn't my, game plan anymore. It wasn't, on the top of my list. It was, going and hanging out with, my wife, and watching a movie, or, studying, or getting better grades, because, I kind of started to get that mindset of like, I don't want to be that student that gets out of college and I'm 5 months after graduation, then I start to finally look for a job. I told myself going into my 4th year that, I'm not going to be like that. So I want to start looking for jobs. I want to start finding ways to, separate myself from the pack right away. And, that's something that I just kind of dedicated myself to my whole 4th year in college, was, just being able to, not be like everybody else, not just, just coast along. I wanted to, have better grades. I wanted to be a good student. I wanted to be play good hockey, obviously too. And, in my 4th year, the craziest thing that I, just kind of realized is, in my 4th year in college, playing hockey, I actually played the most out of all my 4 years. And it was probably the year where I actually did not put as big of an emphasis on hockey. I knew it was my last year playing hockey, and I just kind of had the mindset that, it was kind of taking a second. It was kind of number 2 to me, and school was number 1. And once I kind of had that mindset, I think it just really helped me execute more on the ice and be a better player, because I wasn't stressing as much, about what I should or shouldn't be doing, or, maybe I'm tired here or whatever. I think it's a really great thing to have, is when you have a couple things that you're doing, is one can really, relay off the other and help and support it. And that's ultimately what I had, is once I started to kind of like, take my foot off the gas of, thinking hockey 24/7, always on my mind. What am I going to do here? What am I going to do there? And only turn on my hockey brain when I'm at the rink. it really helped me, and I executed better. I played the most, and we won our final year, and I played a decent part in helping secure that championship as well. So that was definitely a huge learning experience that I kind of went through that I wouldn't have never thought. But I think that's why, that whole mental aspect of just life, business, and sports is so important. And I think that's what was really helping me in my last year of college, was just I was very mentally strong, and I knew I was going to do it, and I was going to do whatever it took. And when I was in the classroom, I was thinking about school and my future and the books. But when I was at the rink, it was nothing else but hockey, and you just got to be able to turn on and off that switch.
That's awesome, man. So you mentioned something that I thought was really interesting, and I kind of want to talk a little bit more about, and that was living in the experience, right? Or getting the most out of the experience that you're currently in, being present to it. Can you talk about how important that is for, I guess, people in general, but specifically for entrepreneurs? I mean, whether it's the experience of building a business, or once you've built it and it's to the point where you want to really enjoy it, because we can make all the money that we want, but if we're not happy and we're not fulfilled, then I would argue that it's almost not worth it. I'd rather be happy and fulfilled. So can you maybe talk a little bit about that and give some insight on that?
Yeah, no, definitely. So when it comes to just being an entrepreneur, there's so many ups and downs, right? And I feel when you kind of stay in the present, it's just you realize that you whether you lost a client, whether you won a client, there's a lot of different things that you can really do, and a lot of just different ways it's going to help you. That when you think too far in the future, your mind isn't really focusing on what's here right now, what's in front of you. You start wavering away. If you're an entrepreneur that's always thinking 5 years ahead all the time, and not soaking up those moments, you might miss your child's birthday. You might miss your wife having a bad day at work because you're not even paying attention to her, because you're not even focused on that. You're focused on something else totally different. And I feel like when you're a lot more present and you really just soak up that experience, it's just a lot more enlightening for yourself, and it just has a really good positive aspect. And I know I'm definitely nowhere near perfect, and I'm not always in the moment. I'm not always present, but I try to be centered. I try to live more in the present, and I try and implement that more into my days, into my weeks, because I definitely do see the value that it has brought me. It's allowed me to maybe not dwell on my losses as much. Know that you need to move on, and know that, okay, this is what's happened. I can't, erase that, but you know what? We're going to correct it, or we're going to do this differently, or we're going to do that, or X, Y, Z. And so that's why, it's really just being present is just a powerful way to really soak up the experience that you're in, whether it's good or whether it's bad. And because I think everything that happens in life happens for a reason. So you just really need to be present. And I think just as an entrepreneur, a lot of times we don't really want to celebrate, if something good happens. But, an entrepreneur, I think it's important to celebrate when some of these good things happen, because, you might not have another good thing for another 2 or 3 months. If you don't celebrate yourself, those small wins, it might be hard for you to carry on. It might be hard for you to find that inner strength to just keep going when you are, at that deep, deep low point in your life. So that's where I think it's just really important to sometimes, be able to just soak up the experience, enjoy yourself, celebrate it a little bit, or, if it's a failure, just, learn from it and just move on. But staying present is super key.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, you talked a little bit at the very end there about failure and learning from failure. But can you go a little bit more in depth on how important it really is to be able to handle failure? And I don't know if there's necessarily one right way to handle it, but what is your approach to dealing with failure?
Yeah, my approach with dealing with failure is knowing that it's inevitable. I know I'm going to fail. I know it's going to happen. I know that I'm going to think I'm right on something, or I think I should do it this way, or I think someone or on our business we should do it that way, and I'm going to be wrong. I know I'm going to fail. I know I'm going to not make the right decision every time, but I've noticed that, as long as I don't make the same mistake twice and learn from it, it's a good attribute to kind of have. And being an entrepreneur, you got to have the willingness to fail. That's what being an entrepreneur is. I'm not saying that you should be open to failing, because I'm a competitive person. I've won championships. I've played high level sports. I want to win. If I'm on a 15 game losing streak, I'm not a happy camper. I don't want to lose. I want to win. And the same thing is business. If I'm losing every month, or I'm losing money, or I'm not making any money, I'm going to be pretty pissed and find a way to get out and find a way to win and find a way to succeed. And that's just ultimately, what I feel is important as an entrepreneur, is just because there's so many ups and downs that you go through. And I think just, through my experience dealing with failure through sports and just life, I was never, the top of my class. I was never always the best player on my teams. But there was times when I was better than some, or, there was years where I was some of the best, or I was the leader of the team. I was the captain, or, I was the assistant, or whatever it was. And, it wasn't all the time for me, and it wasn't easy. And there was times when I didn't get picked, but I didn't let that, falter me, because that just, made me grow stronger and made me just have more strength to really just keep going. And so I think just the way that I deal with failures, I know I'm going to fail. I know it's going to happen. But as long as I learn from it, and as long as I keep going and keep pursuing, I know that, if I keep failing, there's going to be a success down the road at one point. And, hopefully that success is always a little bit bigger than the failure. And as long as that keeps happening, I know things are going to be good.
Absolutely. I think that's great advice, and I 100% agree with you that, it's a learning process, right? We're going to fail, right? We're absolutely going to fail. My coach used to always tell me back in high school, he's like, if you're not failing, you're not trying. And I absolutely think that's profound. So, let's move back into your history. So we kind of got through your college days. When you graduated, what did you do next? What happened after that?
Yeah, once I graduated, I just really started to immerse myself in, finding like, what do I want to do with my life, right? Like, what do I want to do? And I just started to find areas that I had a passion for. And, one of the things that I was never like a huge like techie nerd or whatever. I like to play my, video games and stuff growing up, and had some fun doing that and spending my time. But I don't know. I saw just a real potential really in the tech and the startup scene. I think I just started reading, articles on TechCrunch, and I started just kind of, get familiar with it. And I just saw all this potential. I saw, companies I've never heard of before in countries, in cities that are building these amazing products, or these amazing companies that are super cool, and they're selling for hundreds of millions of dollars, or they're, making hundreds of millions of dollars. And, it just kind of came to me that I was like, why this seems like technology, and, as everything is kind of taking over the world. And if I, get involved in that industry and, and get my feet wet and get some experience and find the ways and network like I know I can, maybe there's a way that, I can be, like some of the people that I've read about, or, heard or connected with type of thing. So I just really started to get involved, with tech and startup companies, and working in sales and marketing and partnerships, and just really starting to, use my business degree and my experience, and just using my skills and communication skills and teamwork skills from sports, and, trying to put that into the tech and startup world, and just really trying to build what I wanted to build. And ultimately got to a point where, I was tired of being an employee. I was tired of working for other people and other companies. And, I always aspired to want to, start and build or partner in my own company. And that's what kind of led me, to the path that I'm currently down.
Very cool. Very cool. So you were saying how you were getting into more sales and marketing, in the startup industry. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of those two, right? Of sales and marketing, and maybe give some actionable tips on how you found were the most effective methods to do both of those incredibly necessary tasks.
Right, and I think the number one thing that that's I think it's a lot overlooked is when I say you should be an entrepreneur and you should start early. I think it's important, but I also feel you should actually get real jobs too and actually get some experience. And the reason why I say that is because working those startup jobs for me early on. In my career, I was still, in my early 20s, but I just really noticed the things that were working or in a business or things that weren't working. I found ways that, I liked the things that my manager was doing here, but then I couldn't believe that they were doing these things here. I saw ways that, offices and companies were being run. And, there was a lot of ways that I didn't like how they were being run. I didn't like how they were doing things. I didn't agree with a lot of the things that they were doing. That, it really made me have that knowledge and made me have that experience that, when I do have my own business, when I do have my own company and we have, 20, 100, 2,000, whatever, however many employees, we choose to have, that I feel through that experience that it wasn't the best experience. I will be able to take that with me and say, well, no, I had a bad experience like that, or this is how my boss treated me, or this is how my coworker, was when we were in the same company, so I don't make that same mistake, with my future employees and current employees and stuff. So it really just gave me that framework, which I think is invaluable. And that's why experience is so important, because if you don't have experience, you don't have something to draw upon. You need to live your life. And that's why failure is so important, I think, is because at least you failed at something, and you have that experience rather than just saying it down the road, oh, you should do this or that, but you've never done it. And the best analogy that I like to say is one of the things that really drives me up the wall sometimes is, if someone is a spectator and they watch a sport and they talk like they know anything and everything and why this person should be doing this or whatever it is. And, my sport that I know very well is hockey. And if you're someone that has never played the game of hockey before and you're sitting there and I'm watching a game with you and you're saying you should do this or you should do that and blah, 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 blah. Well, in the simpler sense, you've never been in that position. You've never actually, been in game 7 and overtime, 4-on-4, you're tired, you're whatever it is, there you got 2,000 fans or 20,000 fans screaming at you. You've never been in that experience. So for you to say this person should do this or that, I think it's wrong. And that's where experience comes into play. If you have been in there, you have done that, I think you just gain more respect, but you gain respect of yourself, but you also gain respect of others. And I think it's just, having that experience is so valuable. That's why, if you're 18 and you think that you're going to be a business coach, well, it's not really, feasible because you've never run a business, unless you run a business since you're 15 and, it's a real success. I'm 25 or whatever, how old I am, I'm not going to pay an 18-year-old to teach me how to run my business because you haven't even had a real job. You still live at home, so it's like, it's things like that I feel experience is super, super valuable. So, thinking that you need to start a business is great. But I feel like going out there and experiencing being an employee and working somewhere is so much more valuable because then you'll be able to take, the good things and the bad things from that and use that for you whenever you do, choose to start a business or, partner in a business or whatever.
That's a really interesting perspective. So when you're saying it's good to go out first and get experience and then learn from that and do your own thing, at what point do you make that transition, right? At what point do you take that leap from being an employee and learning to being the head honcho, being the employer? At what point do you make that transition?
I think it really depends on the person, and I think there's not a simple answer for that because it really depends on the person and who they are and what they're in and the ideas they have and if they are just ideas people or they actually take action on things and where they are in their life. There's so many different factors I think that really come into play. But the thing that I always like to tell people is if you want to start a business, I think the best way to start a business is you have a job right now and you work a job and you have money coming in. And you say, and you choose to not go out on the weekends, you choose not to party, you choose not to do this, and you have a side hustle and you have a side business that you do at the evenings and the weekends and the nights, and you try and build that up into something that's an actual feasible business. So then at one point you can actually quit your job and replace your income with this business. I think that is the best and most useful way, to start a business, rather than just saying, I'm going to start a business, and you quit your job and you have no money and you're I'm an entrepreneur now. Well, no, you're not really an entrepreneur because you haven't built anything. And so I think, it really depends on the type of person. It really depends on the stage that they're at in their life. And I don't think there is no right or wrong answer. It really depends on the person and how they feel inside, because there could be someone at 18 or 19 that has the next idea for the best life-changing app or life-changing company like a Tesla, that it makes sense for them to focus on that and do that. But if they're not the right person, they aren't in the right mindset, they aren't at the right time to do that, I think it's more valuable for them to go work for a startup, go get their feet wet a little bit, go make some money, get some experience, so then you have that to draw off. And then you can take that and be like, okay, in a year or 2 or 3 years or whatever, I've, been able to take what I've learned here and what I like and what I don't like, and I'm going to transition that into something of my own. So I think it really does depend on the person.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with you. And to have the experience of knowing what you like and what you don't like, I also think it's pretty powerful, right? Because you mentioned earlier on how, at one point you were just trying to figure out what you were doing, right? And so, to really have some extra time to not only learn business, learn what works and doesn't work, but to also really find your passion. I think that it's helpful in two ways, or at least more than one way. So, at one point you mentioned how you went and you lived in Spain, I believe it was, for a few months. When did that fall into your timeline, and maybe you could talk about that trip a little bit more?
So I went and lived and worked in Spain just after I graduated college for 6 months. And I was working for a company that manufactures and sells synthetic ice, believe it or not. So they wanted a North American hockey player that could help market and sell their product around the world. And ultimately, I was an international account executive for them. And I traveled around the world and helping them sell the product and represent them at international trade shows and whatnot. So it was a really cool experience. It really just opened my eyes to, the opportunities in the world. And that's honestly one of the things that, I tell people, and it's just really who I am, is I'm not a product person. I'm an experience person. I spend my money on experiences. I'd rather go somewhere and have the memories and have the pictures and have the videos of something that I did with, my friends or my family or my wife or whatever it is, rather than, getting that, $2,000, bag or, $500 jeans or whatever the heck it is, or go out and spend all my money at the bars and, just stupid things like that, it doesn't have any effect on me. That it just really opened my eyes just how big the world is when you grow up in one place in one side of the world and you don't travel, I think you're just really, you're selling yourself short. And the reason being is because there's just so many opportunities out there. And just because you see something on the news or you see something in an article or a video, doesn't mean that that's actually true. Doesn't mean that that's actually how a country is or whatever. And that's where I think, I think traveling is something that everyone needs to carve out in their schedule, every year, monthly, whatever it is, whatever fits in your budget and in your lifestyle. But I know for me moving forward, it will always be a very, very big key for myself and for my wife and for my family, that I will always continue to be traveling and experiencing new cultures and just really continuing to build, that international network of friends and business partners and everything like that. Absolutely.
Now, I agree with you 100% on the travel. I think that is incredibly important and for anybody, entrepreneur or not, to really get out and see the world and get some perspective on things. But for some people, that may seem unattainable, right? It could be due to expenses. It could be due to having to work, at a certain place and be at an office every day. So how would you recommend putting that travel into your routine, into your yearly or monthly or weekly or daily routine, Like, how do you set yourself up to be able to travel is, I guess, what I'm getting at.
Is not take excuses, is not make excuses, should I say, is if you're telling me that, I work at a job, I only get 2 weeks of vacation, or I get 1 week of vacation, or whatever it is, then you're choosing to live that life. That's obviously, travel isn't important to you. You're choosing to settle for something in life. I don't settle for anything. If I want something, I go get it. And if I want to live a life that I want to live, I'm going to go out and get it. So really it's really up to you and what you want to do. And I feel if you really want to travel and that's important to you, then you need to find a way to, how can I fit that into my schedule? And if you tell me, if your excuse is, I'm staying in my country or my city all year and I can't travel because I don't have the money, I call BS. And the reason why I call BS is because there's so many ways that you can travel for free. It's not even funny. And it's called travel hacking. It's called everything from credit card rewards points. You can go sign up for a new credit card right now today, at your local bank and get 20 to 30,000, points towards a flight. That's $300 worth of flights. 30 grand is usually 30,000 points, is usually about $300. So that's a flight somewhere. So when people tell me, oh, I don't have the time, I don't have the money, well, you do, because that's $300 that is free right there. It's just what you're choosing to spend your time and your money on is different. If you're choosing and you're coming up with the excuse that I can't travel because I'm here or I'm there, or I work this or I work that, you're using that as an excuse. If you want to travel and you want to fit it into your schedule and your budget, you can make it happen. And you can do it sometimes for a relatively low cost or free.
Absolutely. And I love that mentality of if you want to do something, it's up to you to put in the effort to make it happen. I love that mentality, and I think people could be a lot more successful if they had that way of thinking. So, you talked about how you figured out at some point that you were a writer, or you started writing. At what point did that come into the equation? And maybe you could give sort of a timeline from when you stopped being an employee and when you took the leap and started really jumping more into entrepreneurship and owning your own business.
So I like I said, in grade 12, I hated writing. I had a 52. It wasn't until probably my third year of college that I started to realize that I was getting better grades on my papers and my essays. And I think it just came with practice and, things that I was learning or implementing and taking from, criticism or marks or whatever it was. And I started to get better marks, and I came across 2 essay contests. One was the summer before my 4th year of college, and I was a essay contest on Twitter, and I submitted an essay. It was basically like answering a question for like a 500 word. It's like write a 500 word essay, answering the question of something. It actually had to do with something totally out of my wheelhouse. It had to do with, it was called the Canadian Water Summit at the time, and it was like, all these like environmental people, and I live in an oil and gas, heavy place in Canada, so a lot of energy and similar to like a Texas. And I wrote this essay about how to conserve water or something, or whatever it was, and I ended up being picked one of the 10 or 15 students from across Canada. And so I went to this summit, and I felt a little bit out of place, to be honest with you, but it was really cool. And I went to this and did some networking and met some cool people. And then about 3-4 months after that, I came across another contest on Twitter, an essay contest here. Submit, an essay. I submitted an essay, and I ended up getting picked again. And this conference was a lot more up my alley. Government leaders of my province that I live in Canada. There was everything from mayors of cities and towns, the presidents of the post-secondary institutions, executives of big companies, and everything was paid for. I was staying at a Fairmont hotel, and it was just like a huge eye-opening experience, coming from a poor student in college. And it just really opened my eyes to like, wow, like I just won 2 essay contests. Maybe I should start writing more. Maybe I should, make this, a little bit more of my routine. And then I started to, get a little bit more involved. I initially started writing for hockey websites, actually, because I was like, hey, I'm playing hockey. Why don't I, write some hockey stories? And then I wrote a few stories for this website. And then I was like, you know what, like, I have nothing against hockey, and it's always going to be a part of my life. But I kind of want to do something new. I want to challenge myself, do something different that maybe I don't know as much about. And that's when I kind of just started, trying to focus more on the, sales, marketing, business, entrepreneurship type space. And from there, I started writing for Startup Grind and a few other places online. And I've been published in Huffington Post and Shopify and a whole bunch of other ones, and Thrive Global and whatever. And then just from there, I've just started to realize that I'm a better writer. I'm a good writer. I have people that reach out to me, almost weekly, saying that they read one of my articles and, it helped them, become a writer. They inspired them to do this or that. And, that's what keeps me going. And that's what really makes me, know what I'm doing is the right thing, is when I can inspire others to take action and do something. And then, just kind of from there, I have just transitioned, just writing for the platforms into helping build and grow, manage, to Influencive and just playing a part in that, and just seeing the growth that we've seen in a short amount of time, and just really we're only getting started, and it's still just the beginning for us, and where we want to take it, and where we see it happening in the future. So it's been an exciting up and down journey, but if I can do it, it means anyone can do it. If I can have a 52 in English and become a writer that one day wants to write a book, then anybody can really do it. So it just I'm evident of that, and hopefully that inspires others that just because you're not good at something one day or 1 year doesn't mean that you can't do that for the rest of your life, or become really good at it and become an industry expert, or just become someone known for doing that. And that's ultimately what's kind of led me to where I am today. That's
awesome. That is so cool. So you mentioned briefly about Influencive, and I kind of want to talk about that. Could you maybe talk about your role in that business, and maybe give from its origin to now kind of the story of Influencive?
So with Influencive, it's me and Brian are our partners in Influencive. I wear many hats, just like any startup entrepreneur. Co-founder, chief operating officer, whatever you want to call it. But I've done everything from editing articles to writing articles myself, to doing sales, to doing business development type stuff, to finding new contributors, to finding partners, to going to different events. I've done many different things. So it's roles in my mind mean nothing. It's just really what the action that you take, and it's really what the results that you ultimately get. And we've Brian and I have partnered together and taken the site to where it is today, and that reaches millions of people online every week through our social media outlets. And ultimately we wanted to build something. We wanted to build a platform that really just helped inspire and educate people in the world of entrepreneurship and business, and mindset and lifestyle, and some travel type stuff. And ultimately, it's been a fun ride. There's a lot of ups and downs, and a lot of really exciting times, it's been fun, and I know when I wake up every day, it's something that I enjoy doing, knowing that I can have a call with this person, or I have a email string with this person, and whatever it is, there's a lot of really good things happening, and I know as long as I just keep moving forward, more good things will happen. And just like as I touched on before, as I know and Brian knows, we know that we're going to fail at one point. Like, I'm not saying like the business is going to fail, but I know that, something that we decide to do isn't going to work out as good as we want it to do. But we both have the mindset, and why we make such a good team is that we don't let those, little hiccups or little, setbacks, think second guess ourselves, or think that, we can't do it, or, we've been in this before. We've been involved in successful businesses and big parts of them, that we know, that what we can do and what we should be doing for the most part in certain areas, that as long as we just kind of keep our foot on the gas and keep moving forward and keep making those small steps forward, good things will happen. So it's been fun, and like I said, it's still just the beginning.
Absolutely. So maybe you could talk a little bit about how you and Brian became partners, and really like the beginning steps of the idea of Influencive, and how did it start? What did it start out as?
Brian started Influencive as a passion project. I started it in January of last year of 2016, and basically just started as a passion project. He didn't like a lot of the content and information that was available online, so he just started to create his own blog. Essentially, he just started his own blog, and then he approached me in about March, April of last year. And we've been friends for the last few years, and just bounced ideas off each other, just built a friendship and a relationship together. And he approached me about being a writer for Influencive. And after writing my first few articles for the platform and for the site, I just really saw the potential that we had, and where we could really just take this. And that's where Brian and I just had a conversation, and decided to partner together and just take it to where we are today. And that's just ultimately, when you see the potential in something, or you're willing to sacrifice, whether it's time, whether it's money, whether it's resources, for a long-term goal, I think you need to do it. And those are the types of gambles and risks and stuff, I think, that hopefully at some point in your life will pay off, right? And it's been a fun, like I said earlier, it's been fun, and it still is fun, and we got a good thing going, and we're excited to just kind of keep moving forward.
Absolutely. So, for a lot of entrepreneurs, getting started is, that's difficult, right? That's one of the first major obstacles in, their entrepreneurial journey. But then once they have their business, really scaling it up and building it into something massive, that's one of the next bigger obstacles that they have to face, right? So can you give some actionable tips based on your experiences of getting Influencive up to where it's reaching millions of people every day? Can you talk about some steps and some tips that you took in order to build that business up to the behemoth that it is today?
Yeah, and I will never take credit for anything. Just myself, obviously. Like, it's a team effort from all of us that are involved. So I'll never, say it's just me, or I just did this or that, or it's definitely a team effort. But really, what I like to say to other people and other businesses and entrepreneurs that I either advise or just consult or give advice to is you need to really scale a business. You need to find ways that you can work on your business rather than in your business. Okay, so you really need to, if you are an entrepreneur or a business owner and you're doing all these daily tasks, you're doing the accounting, you're doing the sales, you're doing the marketing, you're doing the operations, you're doing payroll, you're doing all this stuff, you are using all of your time to do all these things. And you really need to find ways to delegate tasks to others, and you really need to find different people to bring onto your team, whether it's an actual employee, whether it's a contractor, whatever it may be. But it's really, really important to really kind of get to the next step. You got to find different people to put in roles, and trust is a huge part of it. Bringing in the right people is important, and just really having that good core team is super important as well. And that's where, just you got to have that mindset that I can't do everything. I'm not the best at everything. And as a business owner or entrepreneur, you should be focusing on your strengths rather than, saying I'm 50-50 at this, or I'm 60% at this, so I'll still do it. You should just focus on the things that you're 100% at. Like, you are awesome. This is what you're known for. This is what drives you. This is what is really good for you. And this is what's bringing results for your business. And then bring on those different people to really, occupy those other spots in your business. So then it frees up an hour here, or it frees up 2 hours here, it frees up a day a month, frees up, 3 days a month. And that's where I think a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs fall short, is they just, do everything themselves, and they think it's my business, so I have to do everything. I don't trust everybody else. And yet again, it just all comes down to mindset. It's all about having that mindset, having that abundance mindset, and just really being able to, take what you have and to get to that next level by finding, other people. Because you got to think of it this way: Apples, the Googles, every type of company, doesn't matter if it's Steve Jobs or Mark Zuckerberg at Facebook, they didn't just build the company themselves. Okay, they surrounded themselves with amazing people that helped them build and scale. Yes, they were the visionaries. Yes, they were the people that led those companies and still lead them today for the most part. But they surrounded themselves with a lot of really, really great people and smart people and, other people that cared about the vision of the brand. And that's why it's so important that if you're a business owner and you want to get to the next level, you got to get to the level that's comfortable. And then you need to find ways that you can really, find different people to bring on, to take on different tasks, to focus on different areas that maybe you've been focusing on yourself. So it's really, really important to really find that core team and delegate tasks.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, we talked about your past. We talked a little bit about your present of, what you're doing now, what you're focusing on. But what about in the future? Where do you see yourself going, both personally and professionally, moving forward?
Yeah, definitely. I see myself obviously continuing to build Influencive to where we want to take it and where we see it being in the future. And that's always been my focus and will continue to be my focus. But personally and professionally, I definitely will write a book at one point. Obviously, I love writing and it's something that I do. And I think just my whole journey and everything that I've been through and just the learning, the lessons and the experiences that I've had, I think there's a lot of really good things that I think that I could share with some people and help them on their journeys and help them on their paths. So I know definitely at one point I want to write a book and get involved more in different kinds of speaking engagements, just everything around, inspiring and educating, people and entrepreneurs to really, take the leap, for people to just take that leap, right? And be a good entrepreneur and, just really not be afraid to fail. And, I enjoy inspiring other people. So if I can do that in writing a book, if I can do that writing an article or doing a video or doing an interview, I want to continue to keep doing that and just really, help inspire and educate, the next generation that continues to come up and, make sure that people are not selling themselves short and they're always thinking big because, it's all about that mindset. And when you have that proper mindset, you can really do anything you want in life.
That's incredible. That's awesome, man. And, just to give a little bit more on the mindset, I know we keep going back to it, but it really, really is so important. And so, I'm glad that you keep coming back to it because it is so important. But you want to write, maybe a book that you're talking about. Do you have any potential topics that you're thinking about really focusing on for your book?
In terms of topics, I do have a few kind of ideas picked out. I know at one point, I don't think my first book would ever be kind of like my story or my journey. I know at one point I would love to do kind of like a biography and kind of just, straight up like my life and everything from, experiencing back-to-back years of surgeries and playing hockey and, winning championships and losing and college and, ups and downs of entrepreneurship. I think there'd be really lots of hopefully valuable information there that I could share with people. So that's definitely one area. And the other areas, would just be around, really just where I see business and entrepreneurship really going in the next few years and in the future, just finding ways to, maybe encompass a little bit of the travel and business together. I love traveling and I like business. So, being able to maybe couple, travel and business together, in some sort of cohesive way, for a book. So those are a few kind of ideas and areas that I'm kind of playing with, but I've already kind of told myself whenever I decide to, write a book that I will go away somewhere for about a month and go away somewhere for a month, just be away from everything else and just dedicate myself to, every day, writing thousands of words and just being free and not worrying about, all the other, things. Cause when you're at home, there's just so many things that come your way or whatever. So I know whenever I decide, hey, I'm going to write a book, I'm going to go away for a month or whatever and just kind of hammer it out and see what I can come up with.
That's awesome, man. That's really cool. And whenever you do decide to publish a book, I'd love to put a link down in the description below or make it readily available to all the people listening so they can go grab a copy for sure. So, when you're not spending your time doing, business stuff and stuff related to entrepreneurship, what do you like to do? What do you like to do for fun? How do you relax and de-stress at the end of it?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I have probably about three things that I like to do. So number one, I really love reading books. I love just being alone, reading books, whether it's an hour, whether it's 30 minutes. It's just nice to be able to learn and just expand my mind more. So reading is definitely one. Second one is cooking. I love cooking. I'm a home cook. My wife and I cook a lot of really good things, a lot of really good meals, and we're very healthy. So we love to just find different healthy alternatives for, meals and stuff that we've kind of grown up that might not be as good as healthy for you. So yeah, we just love cooking and baking and all those types of things. And then, yeah, I obviously love, just exercising and different types of activities with my wife and, or by myself, and whether it's going hiking outside or, traveling or whatever it is, or hanging out at the lake, just being outside, for the most part. And I know being an entrepreneur right now, especially, just mostly working from home and just working remotely around the world, that, sometimes I don't get out enough. Sometimes I don't, get outside, and I try to constantly, remind myself that I need to go outside or I need to go do this. And so those are just a few areas: reading, cooking, traveling, and, fitness and exercise.
That's awesome, man. So as far as the reading goes, if you could give maybe a top 3 books that you would recommend for entrepreneurs, what would they be?
Two of them I know for sure is Summit of Greatness by Lewis Howes. Love Lewis Howes. Lewis Howes is a really, really great inspirational leader, entrepreneur. Love that one. I want to read his book again, actually. So that's one. Another one is called Content Inc. It's really great. It's a new way of basically starting a business. I think you should really, everyone thinks that you should sell from day one whenever you start a business or service. And I think one of the best ways to do it is you should just build a community and an audience around you or whatever you're building, provide as much value as possible, and then later on down the road, find ways to monetize that audience, monetize, that community that you built. So Content Inc. really lays out a really awesome plan of how to do that. So that's a really, really good resource for entrepreneurs. And then I don't know, the third one. I just read this actually, and I would definitely recommend it because it was pretty good. It's called Thrive by Arianna Huffington. So I write for Thrive Global, which is Arianna's new publication, and it's actually called Thrive. And basically, it's kind of a story of her life that she ended up collapsing one day. I forget how old she was when she was working at Huffington Post, because she was working too many hours, and she was just exhausted and overworked, and she ended up collapsing and going to the hospital. And it was really the day that really made her realize that she needed to, start living her life better. She needed to start eating better. She needed to start exercising. She needed to start de-stressing through meditation, and just really starting to focus on her life more rather than just working all the time. And it's a really cool, she gives a lot of really good tips and tricks in there of like little things that you can do and implement into your life to not do. And one thing that I am a huge proponent of now, and it's hard for maybe all these Gen Zs and you're like yourself, up and coming entrepreneurs, is she really shows the power of sleep. Sleep is so important. Getting the right amount of sleep is so important, and she's a huge proponent of getting 7 to 8 hours sleep every night. And she has another book called The Sleep Revolution, which I haven't read yet, where she basically goes over how important it is of sleep. And that's where I believe in this stuff now too. I used to always think, you gotta work 15, 16-hour days as an entrepreneur and not sleep, or have crazy fluctuating schedules. And I'm starting to get into the modes now where I go to bed early and I get up early, and I feel a lot more better. I feel just you have the whole day, and it's just a different thing. So I'd say Content Inc., Summit of Greatness, and Thrive by Arianna Huffington are 3 that I would recommend for sure.
That's awesome. Now, you also said that you really like to cook. So what would you say is your best meal that you can create?
The best meal that I can create, there's probably too many, not to brag or anything, but I don't think I really have like a favorite thing that I make or that my wife and I make. One thing that I was really proud of that I made, and we bought it, was we actually, and this is where I say it's like, to me, cooking and baking are similar. Yes, they're to me they're basically the same thing, but I actually baked. We have a donut pan, believe it or not. So I've always loved donuts, always, eating donuts, but in the end, donuts are terrible for you. And, when you buy them at stores and stuff, there's just so much crap in them that we actually ended up buying a donut pan from just your local store here. And it comes with 6 little, circular things where you put the dough. And ultimately I made I think it was like chocolate coconut or something like that, donuts. And they were amazing. They were like chocolate coconut, and I put like the glaze on it with like more coconut and like chocolate icing, and like they were just delicious. But like everything that I made them with was, coconut flour and coconut oil and just like really healthy ingredients that, we should all be having. So that's where, if I have any type of meal or anything that I like to make, it's just really finding, just finding a new, healthier way to have a lot of the stuff that, we grow up. So whether it's, having a normal grilled cheese, but it's like, okay, how can I, make this a little bit healthier? Maybe I could throw this in there, or maybe I could throw that. Or one thing that I know my wife would probably say that she loves the most is we have a lot of zucchini noodles type of meals. So it's basically spiralizing zucchini, which is really good. And you can actually have it raw. And it's delicious, and putting different dressings on it and adding more, vegetables and stuff to it. So that's, something that we definitely love to have. And now that it's starting to be a little bit warmer outside, that'll be something that we'll start to have a lot more. But yeah, there's so many different things. And maybe later on down the road, I'll start kind of sharing, some recipes and just kind of more awareness around all the different cool stuff that we're cooking and baking.
That's awesome, man. That's really cool. So then, the next thing that you were talking about was traveling and exercise, being outdoors. So where would you say is your favorite place that you have been to so far?
Favorite place I've been to so far? Probably when I was in Europe, although I haven't really been to many places in Europe. But my favorite place that I've been in, I know my wife would say the exact same thing, is southern Portugal. We went there for just a 2-week vacation a few years ago, and it was just an amazing time. It's just like a small fishing village in the Algarve in the south, and white sand beaches, and just beautiful scenery. Very small town, very friendly people, fresh food and fish, and really it's just an amazing place to be. That definitely. Probably the southern Portugal is probably our favorite.
Really cool. Very cool, man. So, if you could go back to any time period, which time period would you go back to, and who would you talk to in that time period?
I could go back to any time period, and who would I talk to? Well, obviously, if I'm going to go back to any time period, I want to go back to a time period where someone, maybe that I want to learn more from, maybe isn't around anymore, right? That maybe they're, they passed away, or they're not with us anymore. So one person that would be interesting to obviously learn from, maybe just because he passed away and he was just a visionary, is maybe Steve Jobs. I'm not a big Apple guy, to tell you the truth. Like, I'm not a huge Apple fanboy or anything like that. As a lot of people are out there, but I think it'd be really cool to, just kind of learn from him and just experience being in his presence, because I think he was a very unique person. And I think it's important to really surround yourself with a lot of different types of kind of people, because then you kind of see, what works for some people that might not work for yourself or for others. And I think he was a very unique individual that, not many visionaries, not many leaders were like him. At least that's what's depicted of him, in his videos and documentaries and articles and stuff that were done on him. So I would probably have to say Steve Jobs.
Very cool. Very cool, man. And, I just have a few more questions for you. I really do appreciate your time. It's been a great interview so far. What is the thing that you think is your purpose, right? Like, what is the thing that it drives you and it motivates you to get out of bed every single day and keep putting in that effort and bringing that heat day after day after day? What is that thing for you?
I think is what my purpose is really just realizing that there's more to life than just material things. There's more to life than just the experiences you have. It's really if I wasn't here today, and I was to go tomorrow, what legacy am I living? What am I leaving? What are people going to remember me as? And ultimately, I wanted to make a conscious decision of if we don't nobody talks about death enough, and I'm not going to talk about death, but it's I feel like it's almost something scary and frowned upon to talk about in our lifetime. And I feel like if you live every day like it's your last, you're really going to get a lot out of life. And I think you'll make it a lot farther than people that maybe are a little bit hesitant or a little bit scared. And I think you just got to live. You just got to live your life to the fullest. And like I said, that's what it just all goes back to, just having that mindset and just really not being afraid to fail and just staying in the present and not getting too far ahead of yourself, but obviously not dwelling on the past. Just staying present and being in the moment, I think, is just a super, super powerful thing. And yet again, like I said, I still work on it constantly to try and be better, because I think we all can continue to work and get better at things.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. So I have two more questions for you. The first one is, do you have a morning ritual? And if so, what do you do? What is your morning ritual?
Yeah, this is a good one, because I'm someone too that I haven't really found my certain things that I want to do on certain days, or certain things I shouldn't do or whatever. But something that I'm starting to kind of experiment with, because you read a new book and this person does this, so you try doing it, try implementing it. But something that I usually like to do is I like to start my morning with a glass of water. I like to have a glass of water as soon as I get up. Just to try and, your body is dehydrated overnight while you sleep. So it's really important to, just fill it with water. And before, I never drank water unless I was playing sports. So I'm trying to just kind of, replenish my body so I'm not dehydrated more. So I definitely like to drink water in the morning, and I like to read. Something that I like to do in the morning, it's just kind of like a new fresh, slate that I like to read. I don't get to do it every single day. But, if I'm in a good frame of mind, I don't need to get something done today or figure it out. It's, I will carve time out of my day to just kind of hang out, have a cup of tea or whatever, and, read my book. But I don't, yet I'm still experimenting with, kind of how I want to have my perfect morning routine. But, I definitely know that, having water and, having a cup of tea and just kind of relaxing and, reading a book is something that I'm going to continue to tweak with and see if I'm going to add another thing in, subtract it. But yeah, I think you just got to keep using what works for you.
Absolutely. So, again, I want to thank you for spending so much time doing this interview. It's been really fun and very impactful, I think, for the community. So, my last question for you today, man, is there anything about yourself that you think is an important part of who you are that I did not ask you about today? In other words, what did I miss?
What did you miss? I don't know. I guess, maybe people don't realize it as much because, it's a serious interview and stuff like that, or, serious questions, trying to inspire. But I do have a sense of humor. I am a pretty, down to earth guy. I don't like to stress too much. I like to have fun. I like to, I just like to, I think, I'm like, I've had the bosses, I've had the, managers that are, very hard ass, and you need to do this, you need to do that. And, I just consciously made a decision that I don't want to be that person. I want to be, I want to be someone that other people want to be around. I want to be, a positive influence. I want to be a positive person for the most part. And if I'm being negative, I want people to kind of hold me accountable. So I try and hold myself accountable and just say, no point of being negative, just try and, take life as it comes. And, I try and be as positive as possible, but, being positive as possible, I also like to joke. I also like to have fun and joke around. It's not, you got to be able to have fun, while also being serious at times, and you got to be able to turn on and off the switch. And I think one thing that maybe not many people have noticed is I do like to joke around. I like to kid around, and definitely be sarcastic when I can. So.
Absolutely. Fantastic, man. Well, I want to thank you again for the time you spent. It's been a great interview. And to everybody that's listening, I want to thank y'all as well. Y'all are the reason that we're doing it. The fact that you keep coming back time after time to listen, it really, it really is incredible. And I want to thank you for all the support and all the love. So this has been another Project Egg interview. Today we've been talking to Clinton Senkow from Canada. Have a good one, everybody.
Thanks, man.